Excited to be with you today, Jim. Jim Throneburg, founder of THORLO, and to get to talk about your experience of the transformation that THORLO has been going through in the last few years around this idea of the handbook and the ICCs. Some of the folks in the Institute for Strategic Clarity community have read about you and some of the chapters in the book or the case studies and heard about you. So this is a great opportunity to get to hear about your experience of going through this, from the many years where it wasn't gelling to the progression over the last few years of when it started to come together. So I'm really grateful to get this opportunity to talk with you about it. Love to start with why you did this. What did you see as the purpose for wanting to take on this whole effort in the first place as the owner?
Well, it's been a long time ago to talk about why this happened. This is the perspective of 40 years later, looking back at all the way from the time I enter the company when I'm 21 or 2 years old. And Dad's idea of the business, the hosiery business, was we used to talk about this a lot, that I could choose, that you have to choose, you need to choose between these two sets of problems. You either have this problem or you have this problem. This problem is about every day, all day, 24/7, 365, you got to be thinking about how to save a half a cent a pair. The other set of problems that you could choose to take on would be to find and do things that nobody else is doing, nobody else sees that they could be done, should be done, that don't even see the reason for it or anything else. And the object is to make more money, make dollars, not saving pennies, make dollars, so that when they sell 100,000 dozen, you could sell 2,000 dozen or 10,000 dozen and make the same amount of money as they do on 100, and then go fishing, which was what he wanted to do.
Right.
What I came up with was later on, after, I don't know, we started in 50, I started in the business, I'd worked in the business since I was 13, but I went to the Navy and I came back in 58 and started, or 60, I came back in 60 and started, was married, had one child, and all of a sudden needed to make a living, went into business with the old man. And he was an inventor, this kind of guy, but he was the traditional inventor that really didn't care about making money. What he was inventing was things that solved problems that he didn't want to fix anymore. He just wanted to design himself out of having to work on that same problem. In other words, he didn't think of himself as a fixer of problems. He thought of himself as a designer out of problems, so that he never had to fix it but once. Once he saw it, he see three machines doing the same thing, he'd invent something to put on all the machines, even the ones that's never made this mistake, so they never make the mistake.
So you had that inventor quality
Right.
from the beginning.
And so that kind of perspective and his other philosophy of life was that I don't care what you do with your life, but if you don't become the best at one thing, janitor, I don't care what it is, and don't you tell me you're the best. I want to talk to the man you're working for. He's got to tell me you're the best, okay? Because if you ever learn how to be the best at one thing, you learn the process of success. And the process of success is the same. I don't care whether you're inventing an automobile or whatever you're doing new that's never been done, that's the way it works out the best. So, I picked up that stuff. So from a foundation point of view, I think of Dad as the manufacturing foundation of the business. I became the marketing foundation of the business, and now the cultural foundation of the business. Of course, I won't be here when the culture is complete, and so there'll be another second founder, like I'm the second founder of the THORLO. There'll be one more. It actually won't be one guy. I think the rest of them will be leadership in our company, will be seen in the far future as a group that did this, not an individual that did this.
So the sustainability of all this is really important, that being the best.
Well, the real question why is, and I didn't know it consciously in those days, but as things moved along, and once I had the first invention to be successful and went from making 50 cents a dozen to $5 a dozen, we were off and running from there on, because I realized that I could find a consumer need and design something that nobody else had, because they weren't looking at it like that. They were only looking at cosmetics, what color it does, what patterns it have in it. They wasn't even thinking about and what yarns it's made out of. But basically, all of that was about fashion, because socks are an accessory coordinate with apparel and are considered apparel by the world except for me. I don't consider ours apparel. I consider ours functional foot protection. But in any case, so why underneath it all was always sustainability. In other words, what good is it? It never made any sense to me to go to all this trouble to be the best at something, to find that thing that nobody else sees or nobody else wants to do and really be successful. What does all that matter if when I die, it's over with? Okay? And so underneath all of this, every time I've had a run into a real issue of life or death for the company long term after me, the decision has always been made by me to spend the money, take the risk, whatever it was, relative to sustainability. In other words, whatever that was the North Star. So every decision was bent back toward that, one way or another. And whenever I didn't do that, it was just we led off into a cul-de-sac and we just started doing that, and that, of course, that's not sustainable.
Perfect. So you already mentioned that looking for that sustainability, that there are risks. So you knew that there were risks coming into or focusing on the sustainability.
Well, I've heard this from a lot of creative people, and it's certainly true in my case. If I'd have known before I started what all the risks were going to be, I probably would have not made the decision to do it. It just evolves into, you're here, you've done all this effort, and now there's another problem, and you almost, there's times when I used to joke about it. If somebody would walk up and offer me the right amount of money, I'd sell it today. Tomorrow I wouldn't sell it because I'm enjoying it again tomorrow, but today I'm frustrated with it, and I basically would have sold it to you for the right amount of money that day. But again, along in there somewhere, once you become successful and you're acknowledged for that, and we ended up with 20 or 30 patents and all kinds of things, and once you've got that far into the game, it became real for me and conscious for me that sustainability was what I was doing.
And you had the feedback from the customers about the impact that you were having.
Exactly. In other words, they are telling me that they're never going to quit wearing this. So it's sustainable. The product in the consumer's eyes, the ones that have experienced it and had a good experience with it, they're basically going to buy it forever. So that gives you can look at that and say, if you had enough consumers that are going to buy it and buy it continually every year for the rest of their lives, that is sustainable some way or another. And that was, of course, it's like a riddle. For me, it's like a living riddle of all of these either ors and having to transfer them into both ends.
Perfect. So one of the things that, and knowing, because you knew the risk also from your experiences of continuously working on the sustainability, making those investment decisions versus sell decisions. What were some of the risks that you were thinking about? Like one of them you've mentioned before is the disruption to the structure. You said, I know that I'm changing the structure.
Yeah, anytime that you do anything that's disruptive to what has been institutionalized in our world, I think Machiavelli said it the best. In that world, in that change world, you only have two people in your life, lukewarm friends and enemies. Nobody wants to take that risk. Nobody can see that until it materializes and brings forth fruit, and then everybody's okay with it.
You were a genius.
Yeah, I'm a genius at that point. But it is a lonely place to be. I mean, I would say one other thing about a risk that today I appreciate far more than I did then, and that is that what that took away from my time with my family. I mean, I just talked to a man the other day who wants to be in THORLO so bad he can taste it, but he's got a commitment to his family that will not allow him to come and live in Statesville or work with us in the way that I'd like for him to be here. We're trying to work out something that he could do it and be here maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but I don't know if it's going to work out. But when he told me his story about how he made that decision, it really hit me hard because I made the decision the other way. I made the decision that, and part of that was because I was raised, this is a family business. In the earliest days of this business, 15 of the 20 employees were family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, that kind of stuff. So I felt an obligation to the people who had invested their time, the employees. I've always felt that they are the ones who either make, they're the ones who actually create the product, and if they do it well, we make money. If they don't do it well, we die.
Right.
So I've always been focused on their quality of life as well as our consumers' quality of life.
Perfect. So, and always focusing on the sustainability and knowing the risk. And you said, and you're disrupting structure. And great, the thing that's great here is you're disrupting a structure that was one you put in place, or that was.
Well, yeah, I would have
structure.
never done this. I don't think I could have done this if I were working in any other company. If I didn't own every share of stock, if I had a minority stockholder. In fact, there was a problem with my children. They were minority stockholders at one time, and the two boys came to me one day and said, Dad, we don't think you're managing the business for the best interest of the minority stockholders. I mean, that's a legal issue. And I said to him, I said, well, I hate that you said that, because what you just did was you sold me your stock. I gave it to you. It's educated you, it's given you a start in life, and now you're telling me that I can't live my dream because I'm not managing the business for the highest form of profitability. I'm managing the business for the long term. You're in the long term. I'm doing this for you, and you're telling me that I'm doing something wrong. What do you want for the stock? Because you got to sell it to me. Right. I'm no longer going to talk. So if you didn't own every share of stock, then your partner, whoever that is, would have to have this vision or this drive or this urge to do this as much as you would, or you'd be in a constant struggle, because it looks like, and now the synergies are showing up that tell everybody, yes, we are going to, this is going to happen long term, notwithstanding what's going on in the economy in the world. I can't have anything to do with that, but if everything don't fall apart, we'll be here 100 years from now, I suspect. I don't know what we'll be doing.
Right.
The way it's structured. I mean, we may be making automobiles 100 years from now. I have no idea.
Because you had also the other risk. There's a challenge for leadership to take on the sustainability, because they've also got the short-term question.
Well, yeah, it's actually kind of parallel to the conflict that goes on between ownership and managers. We're expecting managers to manage the business efficiently. And I'm always wanting to grow the business, so I keep giving them new things to do that they have to perfect, and that keeps them kind of in turmoil a lot. Right. And my structured process that we finally ended up with, I think, overcomes a lot of that.
Perfect, and we'll jump into that in a minute. So to me, it's interesting to see this focus from early on around the sustainability of the business, because we're having this impact and we found a way to do that that's unique. So let's continue to do that and figure out how not to kill that. And you're very aware of the risks from your own experiences of what it means to disrupt the structure that was your own. It could fail. It was your money that you were putting into all of this. That leadership has got this challenge between the short term and cash versus sustainability, all those things, and knowing all that from your own experience, you took it on anyways.
Well, yeah, and I have to say that by this time, just before I met you, my mind's wandering.
Things weren't really gelling, or is that what you're wondering?
No, you asked me about the choice.
Right.
Basically, I began to hold it as an obligation rather than a choice. Okay? And whatever I had to rationalize, I just rationalized everything based on the fact that we now have 2 or 3 million consumers who are depending on this product for their quality of foot health or foot life, if you would, or foot comfort, whatever. And I just felt an obligation to them, and I also felt an obligation to, we had employees now that have been here 20 years, 30 years, and I felt an obligation to them. And so those are the two groups. If I'm taking care of the loyal consumers, I'm taking care of the loyal employees, that looks like sustainability, okay? But how do you create a structure-process that ensures that will stay that way over time?
Perfect. So that sort of jumps into this transformation of the last few years of when you started to see what now is in the handbook and the ICCs, but when that started to come together with the common purpose, maybe back at the train depot, what sort of that's.
Well, as you remember, Jim, we'd worked on this handbook. We were trying to articulate not just the handbook that all employers have about 401s and absenteeism and all those policy things. That's in the back of our handbook. In the front of the book, we wanted to articulate the philosophy and the structure-process in a way that it would actually become a screen for people coming in the door, because when you read this or understand what you are being asked for, you're not being asked. We got two kinds of employees. We got people who are in the leadership conversation and people who are not in the leadership conversation, work on the floor. They're doing something all the time. They're not being, they're doing something most of the time. They think of themselves, and their identity is that they knit or they board or they pack or they do something. And so we set up this whole idea around, it's based on self-organizing systems, and in this sense that do we have, are we open completely to the outside world? We're not. We're only partially open. The second part of that is there has to be auto-catalytic loops, feedback loops in the system, and that actually manifests itself as the ICCs. Once I saw that in an integrated collaborative conversation on a regular systemic basis, that this becomes the metabolism that your body uses to digest food. This becomes a metabolism. This communication system is integrated collaborative, becomes a digestive system for information as nutrients for the brain, and so that became the actual. Once we were actually practicing that, I think everything started moving forward at more of a fast pace. The very first thing we found was we came up with a common purpose. We now call it More Life. What that means is that every time there's a decision to invest money, two questions have to be asked. One is, does this serve the long-term best foot health interest of our loyal consumers? And the second one is, is this investment going to bring new people into the franchise? In other words, what we've found over the years is that we can't even advertise. I cannot advertise and explain to you what an experience of better feeling feet is. You have to have the experience. So we've come up with an idea called first trial to awareness. Everybody in the world, in the business world, works on awareness to first trial. Advertise, we make you aware, then we engage you in a way, and maybe we'll do a special introductory offer or something, and you'll try one, and then you'll go on, whether you continue to purchase or not. Ours, if you don't have the experience first, I can't tell you what that's like. So we are always looking for ways to get people to try a pair, and that's become our second sustainable question. So that the common purpose is always, no matter where you are in the company, whatever it is, it's going to cost money to do something. So these are large investments. These are not day-to-day kinds of things. But that question is asked before we say yes to spending money.
Perfect. So if you've had for a very long time, basically your whole time at the company, of this understanding some way of sustainability, that we found something that works, we have people that want it and need it and expect it, and loyal employees who are here for a long time serving then. And so sustainability is a big deal, and then this common purpose starts to gel within the company. As the owner, as the founder of this, what has that experience been like for you of seeing that now starting to gel, first the common purpose, and then we'll look at the ICC?
Well, it actually was very fragmented. In other words, we're doing things over here and things over here, but they're not really connected. And I don't know, I can't remember at what point this came up, but it came to me that if everybody was serving a common purpose, and if that common purpose was not to make more money, but to serve a larger group than us, which is the consumer group that we serve, we got about 4 or 5 million loyal consumers now that just wear THORLO products. So that is, to me, loyal people who make it and have heart for it, selling it to people who have the real need for it and have a heart for it and are enjoying the benefits of better feeling feet, whatever that means to the quality of your life. As you get older, that means a hell of a lot. But everybody, and I remember this from a story I read in Harvard Business Review years and years ago, I believe it was about a Swiss automobile company. And they had studied to see how to get it to be more productive. And what they found is that people on the line up here when we first started with a chassis or whatever you start with, none of these people, until you got down here to the very end of the production line, did anybody relate to the end product and the consumer. And they found out that if this guy back here at the very beginning, if he knew the value to the consumer of his work, that he did it better. In other words, he could relate to the outcome. And that outcome is, of course, the consumer and how loyal they become.
And so as the common purpose has gotten clearer and more gelled here,
I think of it as the glue that kind of holds everything together, that we're focused on not making money. We should make the money if we achieve the common purpose, which is to get new people in the franchise every year and to always take care of those people that are already in the franchise.
And so as that common purpose became clearer and more gelled in the company, you experienced that there was actually that impact. I mean, because that's you've been experiencing that
for the first time. We had a gathering of, I think it was 30 or 40 people, and we ended up in this common purpose. This was the whole idea of the meeting, but we did a lot of things, a lot of exercises before we got there. But at the end, we came up and shared this common purpose, and everybody in the room got it. They were at all levels of the company, from the floor all the way to me. And after that, I began hearing stories from the floor that it was making a big difference in the way they approached their work. And that's when I realized that this piece was a part of it. This is a key element. Without this, I don't see how it could work, because everybody's got their own thing.
What was it like for you when you started to hear those stories and see that
I thought we were a lot closer to the success factor than we were. There was a few pitfalls after that. But yeah, I was, it was like, wow, that just demonstrated to me that we could affect this thing, that we could do things and be things together that you simply could not do from a position of I'm the boss and you're the employee and I'm going to tell you what to do.
So then from that common purpose, when that started to gel, things started to self-organize around that, I'm hearing, and eventually out of that came this ICC structure in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it became the actual strategy of how do you achieve more life, brand stewardship, 4 elements of integrity, and the vision and the mission. And the how to achieve that was to create that metabolism of information flow. What I call it today is a systemic exchange of information. In the ICC world, we have integrated collaborative conversations. That means that we're going to come together today with 10 people, and there's a business problem or a business opportunity, and we've got somebody from every area of the company that's going to be affected by this in the room. And as they massage this idea, and everybody through that diversity of perspectives with a common purpose. In fact, we got a person in the room that makes sure that it stays on the common purpose. We got another person that's in charge of keeping it on the local conversation, on the local purpose also. So there's two purposes: the higher collective purpose, which is to keep the whole company going in the right direction. This one is to solve this problem or to manifest this opportunity. What happens in those meetings is that we do solve the problem, but what we're doing, the way we go about this in a collaborative modality and integrated, so I'm hearing from the guy that I serve downstream and the guy that serves me upstream is in this room. And so what we're hearing when we put our perspective in, I hear what his problems are doing this. I know what problems that's going to cause me, and that the guy right there knows what problems I'm going to cause him. And so we end up, and what happens generally is nobody has an answer coming in the room. The answer kind of emerges organically out of that conversation. And so once we started doing that, it was even more powerful to me than the common purpose experience. In other words, I saw this, I mean, that didn't work for everybody all the time. As people still come in the room and don't participate and don't engage. I mean, if you're silent in the room, I've now got a guy in the room that's supposed to get you in the conversation if you don't play, because your perspective may change this whole outcome. So it's an honoring of diversity. Integrated means integral, integrity. All those words come out of that. Okay, so integrated, collaborative means that it's not competitive. You got to leave your ego and your personal agenda at the door. Okay, and these are all soft kind of things. Corporate world thinks of these as soft things. These are the things that will create the synergy. That synergy, the word means free energy. In this case, it's free money. I've got a situation here where we had a group of people, and just by them changing the way they work together and collaborate together, it saved the company $2 million a year.
That's great.
Okay, so the proof of the pudding, as soon as that happened, I started thinking about the possibility of maybe going public with this idea, because there's no reason to go public as long as I'm doing something in my company that I want to do with my company, but it is not making money. If it don't make money, and of course that don't mean the company's made money because we saved $2 million. It means we got $2 million to invest in a company that we didn't have.
Beautiful. So, and you've been doing this ICC thing for a couple of years now. What has been your experience of seeing that evolve and the fruit of that? You shared a little bit about the outcomes.
Yeah.
But as the founder owner, thinking about the sustainability, our ability to serve this common purpose, in those conversations, what's been your experience of seeing those ICCs?
Well, to me, the rest of it is values and principles and aspirations and that kind of stuff. This is a hard place. This is the how-to. This is where all that stuff is going to come down and stay in context of the higher collective purpose. To me, I saw this as the engine of sustainable relationships. Okay?
And you're seeing that happen.
And I'm seeing it happen. That's the mission of the company, is to realize, meaning make real for me, sustainable relationships with my environment, whether that's one guy, 10 guys, the outside world, whatever that is. Now, in the outside world, you can't have a sustainable relationship with a guy that don't want one, okay? So we have two kinds of relationships in the field or outside of us, our perimeter, and that is, we call them transactional relationships. That's where we both know that we're not going to be collaborative. We're going to compete with one another. Retailers compete to try to get the price down and get cooperative dollars, blah, blah, blah. We're trying to keep all that. Or we can have a sustainable relationship, which means we are mutualized in other words, we've now said this is our common purpose, and together we can mutualize and we can work on that. And it just works we got one account that is just tremendous with this, a major retailer in the United States that we do this with. And we have driven that business from, I think it was $4 million at retail to $17 million at retail in about 3 years.
That's beautiful. So you've gotten to live, as you started to see the sustainability, it got clear, the community's taken up, you've gotten to actually live that there are fruits to this.
Yeah, and once you have this kind of structure-process that we call it, then you can start thinking about, and we've instilled it, or we've incorporated this into the deal. We have a farm system that we talk about where we have some people who are just entering the leadership conversation. It's voluntary. You don't get paid for being in the leadership conversation because you're going to spend your time learning, reading, talking, whatever it's going to be, on company time. So you don't get any money for this. You don't get any status for this. Okay. The janitor can be in the leadership conversation. The leadership conversation is about people's minds and hearts contributing to a conversation that will emerge sustainability long term. And so if you have a farm system, you know, if you don't have somebody coming along learning and experiencing these things, because there's actually an experience here too, one of shifting the way we talk about it today. People shift, they come into the leadership conversation and they shift from an I perspective, I, me, and mine, to a we perspective, which means they're now thinking about the whole company as an owner would think about the whole company. In other words, they're not worried about their one piece. They're worried about this piece, but they're also worried about how that's affecting the whole piece.
Perfect. So I sort of hear this is sort of what you've developed with the common purpose, the handbook, the book, the ICCs is now a platform for being able to take it to the next step in your experience.
Right, and in fact, we're in the process of coming to a place. We formally named this. Started about 3 months ago. We call it transition. So we've been practicing for like 10 or 12 years now, and there's 50 people or more in the program. From just entering the first step, there's 4 phases of farm system. There's entering the conversation. Then there's a thing called co-host. There's another. In other words, all of these don't make this cut. Then the next cut is trustee pool, and then the next one is trustee, active trustee. This is all pointed toward sustainability after me. In other words, I've created an estate plan that will also allow the company to exist after me. Okay.
And so you're seeing the fruits and getting to experience it.
One of those issues that come up that you really would like to hedge that you can't hedge is that my 2 boys that are in the business, I mean, they understand it, they accept it, but they don't like it because they will never be me. Nobody will ever be one person who can call martial law and stop the engine. It'll be a group of people that have to do it after me, and of course that is a sense of ownership that the family members have a problem grasping. I think after I'm gone and they see what the value to them is in their family life that I didn't do well myself, they will have a chance to do that right because they won't have to be in it all day, every day. I mean, it'll just work out that way. I would be surprised that if they don't, they're not able to be with their family. I mean, for me, it is my family.
Right.
And so my blood family is just, they're here. The ones that's not here are still my family, and I take care of them too. And in the estate, they're going to be taken care of, but they can't command it. They can't drive it.
For the sustainability.
They can through their personal and professional influences.
Right.
And that's what I expect from them. I don't know what they'll do when I'm gone, but that's the way it'll look.
Well, thank you very much for sharing this experience from the owner's perspective and the founder of what going through this kind of transformation for sustainability, like a group coming and seeing this common purpose that they've been sharing, and how there are different strategies or structured processes that you've been working with and seeing the fruit of. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really kind of like if you took R&D to the level of culture. I mean, it's been an exploration. I think we know now, and that's what this transition period is about. We're now fixing to take all the things out of the system that are not working very well and simplify what we've been doing for 10 years. In other words, I think we're quit exploring it, although it will continue to evolve. I'm clear of that, but we're not formally exploring. I think we know what to do. We know why we're doing it, and we have a strategy that will allow it to happen. And that environment is all we can provide. I mean, you can't make anybody do anything or be anything. They have to want that. Now, what we've done is my old saying, Pop used to say, you can lead them to the water, but you can't make them drink. And my argument forever and a day was, if I put enough salt in their oats, they will drink when they get to the water, okay? And of course, that's been true with some people, and some people it's not true. Okay?
That's great. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.